Shane McGuigan revealed some interesting information about Anthony Joshua in this toe-to-toe video right here on Sky Sports Boxing YouTube channel. He said that Anthony Joshua is working with another coach, as well as Robert McCracken, and that this coach has done some work with some other matchroom fighters or some other fighters, I think, who Anthony Joshua manages. And he says that he doesn't think that's a good thing for there to be two coaches. And he's actually picking Andy Ruiz to beat AJ again. And you know what? With regards to the two coaches, I agree. I don't think that's a good idea. In fact, this coach, whose name I forget, please forgive me. In fact, you can go and watch this video right here, and Shane McGuigan will tell you the name of the guy. But I suspect that this coach has been whispering in Anthony Joshua's ear and doing little bits and pieces of work with him for quite some time. And I'm talking about maybe for the past couple fights. Because as I've mentioned in countless videos, there appears to be, a conflict in terms of the way AJ should be fighting, in terms of AJ's style. Because if you look at the Povetkin fight, AJ's fighting with his left hand down. After the first couple rounds, he starts fighting with his left hand down in a more smooth and less clunky style than we're used to seeing him fight. But when he goes back to the corner, Robert McCracken is saying, keep your hands up, mate. Keep center of the ring, mate, and all this business. But AJ comes out and does it for a few seconds, but then he goes back to this other style where he's got his hands down and he's looking a bit more fluid. Same thing happened in the Andy Ruiz first fight. McCracken saying, keep your hands up. AJ keeps his hands up for, a few seconds at the start of each round. Then his hands come down and he starts moving around. Now you could say, well, he's tired. Well, I don't think it's just as simple as him being tired. I think it's actually, keeping your hands down. If you're a big guy like AJ, big muscular guy, especially if your muscles are pumped up from weightlifting, keeping your hands down is less tiring than keeping your hands up. Okay? But you have to know when you can keep your hands down. But no, I think it's what AJ's being taught. I think that McCracken is trying to teach him one style and his other trainer is trying to teach him another style. That, to me, causes confusion in the camp. I remember when Prince Nassim was working with two different coaches. He was working with Manny Stewart and another coach called, I forget the guy's, it was his surname Sanchez. I forget the guy's name. Was it Oscar? Was it Suarez? Oscar Suarez? I forget the guy's name. I think it might have been Oscar Suarez. But Prince Nassim was working with two different coaches. And I think it might have been for the Barrera fight, was it? Where between, in the corner between one round, you'd have Manny Stewart. And then in the corner between the next round, you'd have Suarez. I mean, how confusing is that? Two different coaches, both have an ego, both may have a different game plan, both might teach a different style, both might have a different idea in terms of what they want the fighter to do. Nah, man, I don't like the sound of that at all. Now, in some instances, having several coaches can work out well. I mean, we've seen with Terence Crawford, for example, he apparently has several coaches, and it's all gone swimmingly well so far. But with AJ, in this particular situation, and in most situations where you have multiple coaches trying to teach a fighter, it usually doesn't end up working out that well, in my experience. Sometimes it does, but most of the time it doesn't. It just sows confusion into the fighter's mind. And particularly for AJ, going into this Andy Ruiz rematch, there's already confusion in his mind. There are several things about AJ going into this Ruiz rematch which are cause for concern. First of all, his mind wasn't right going into the first fight. I think we can all agree on that. He didn't look right. That was not the normal AJ walk into the ring and in the corner before the fight. There was something wrong with him. I don't know what it was. He claims there was nothing. Well, I don't believe him. There was something wrong. Maybe he was distracted by something in his personal life. Who knows? But he wasn't in the right place mentally going into the Ruiz fight. Then he gets battered against Andy Ruiz, humiliated in his American debut. That is going to leave mental scars on Anthony Joshua's psyche. Scars that he's going to have to try and get over by December. And there's also the fact that millions of people, literally millions, were trolling Anthony Joshua on social media, even in person, after that Ruiz loss. That's going to leave additional mental scars. Don't underestimate how that must feel. I ain't been in that position. None of you have been in that position, because none of us are that famous to be having millions of people trolling you, saying you're trash, you're garbage, you got a glass jaw, saying that Wilder would wipe you out in a round, Fury would school you, all this kind of stuff, that you're a hype job boxer, the new Frank Bruno. Well, these are the kind of things that people are saying about you when you've just been humiliated in the ring and battered. I mean, you're going to be questioning your own ability. You're going to be dealing with the mental scars of the first fight. You're going to be dealing with the trolling, because that can have an effect on you. Anthony Joshua admitted that one of the reasons he rushed in for the finish against Andy Ruiz is because he was trying to compete with Deontay Wilder, because people were bigging up Wilder for his performance and they were expecting something similar from Joshua. So the pressure of the crowd, what the crowd expected from AJ, made him rush in recklessly. So he is susceptible to what the crowd are telling him, what the public are saying about him. So, as I say, mental issues going into that fight, have they been resolved? Don't know. Psychological scars from the fight and from the trolling afterwards. And on top of all that, you've got this tug of war, it would seem, in his camp, an internal struggle, with one trainer pulling him in one direction and Rob McCracken pulling him in the other direction. He's also lost a lot of weight, it would seem. Now, ordinarily, I would say that's a good thing. In fact, I'm going to maintain that it's a good thing. But maybe Andy Ruiz has lost weight to counteract that. Will AJ lose strength? Will he need the extra strength? So there are a lot of question marks about Anthony Joshua going into this fight. So many question marks that I can understand why Shane McGuigan is picking Ruiz again. Because Ruiz, we know, more about him. There's less questions going into this rematch. From a physical standpoint, Anthony Joshua has all the tools to beat Andy Ruiz. Let me just lay that out on the table right away. He's got all the tools to beat him. He's got the height, he's got the reach, he's got the athleticism, the mobility, he's got the punching power. He's been 12 rounds. He can beat Andy Ruiz. But can he beat him with all this baggage? Can he beat him with all this turmoil going on in his camp, in his mind? That's what I'm not sure about. I might end up picking Ruiz to win in the rematch. We'll see. There's several weeks to go. I want to see how both guys are shaping up, how they're looking in training, maybe even what they weigh in at before I make my final prediction. But provisionally right now, I might be leaning towards Andy Ruiz to do it again. Because I don't know how settled that AJ mind is, and I don't know how settled his camp is. You need to be unified and all going in one direction. You can't have a tug of war in terms of what style AJ needs to be fighting in. There's also a danger, which I've talked about before. When you lose a fight, particularly a big fight, there's a tendency for some people to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So not only will they change the thing which they think got them into trouble in the first fight, but they'll change a whole heap of other things which didn't get them into trouble. That's not a good idea. You don't want to change everything about a fighter going into an immediate rematch like this. You know, in an ideal world, and I've said this before, AJ would have taken a tune-up fight. Or he would have forgotten about the Andy Ruiz rematch altogether and gone away, rebuilt himself, learned his trade against, you know, other opponents, and then maybe down the line take a Ruiz rematch. I know it's a very overused phrase, but timing really is everything, especially in a sport like boxing. AJ rushing right back in there with Ruiz immediately. It's a big gamble. It could work out better if you take your time instead of rushing. So, yeah, that's my take on what Shane McGuigan has said here. Interesting information. Drop your comments in the comment section below. If you haven't seen this video, go watch it. Then come back and leave a comment. Let me know what you think in terms of what he said. And if you've got any knowledge of this trainer, which they say Anthony Joshua has been working with, let me know about him too. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who are you leaning towards at this stage? You know, because look, the odds for the rematch are, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Not only is Anthony Joshua dealing with all the mental issues and all that kind of business, the fact he got humiliated and, you know, the mental scars from that and the trolling and whatever he was dealing with before the first fight, he's also the favorite for the rematch. So all the pressure, incredibly, is still on Anthony Joshua. Ruiz is expected to lose. I know he's a much, the odds are a lot shorter than they were for the first fight. But nonetheless, Ruiz is still on the underdog side of the betting odds. So more pressure on Anthony Joshua to perform. Will he rise to the occasion? He has done incredibly in many fights in his career. I mean, the Vladimir Klitschko fight, what was that, AJ's 18th fight or something? Fighting at Wembley Stadium against the guy vastly more experienced than you. You didn't see Deontay Wilder doing that. And you can say, oh, Klitschko was old and this, that. Well, Luis Ortiz is old. And Klitschko is a hell of a lot better than Luis Ortiz. Who was Wilder fighting in his 18th fight? Just think about the pressure that young man had to deal with in his 18th fight, fighting Klitschko at Wembley. It's not just the fight itself, it's the pressure, the crowd, the expectation. I mean, most people would have fallen to pieces. Most inexperienced, 18-0, they would have fallen to pieces under them circumstances. And 18-0, Deontay Wilder would have fallen to pieces. Hence why they kept him away from anybody with a pulse until he was at least, 32-0? Never mind 18-0. So, yeah, AJ has shown incredible ability to deal with pressure in the past. But everybody has their limit. And has AJ reached his limit in terms of how much pressure he can handle? He might have reached his limit. He might have cracked in that Ruiz fight and he might not have recovered mentally by the time the rematch takes place. Yeah, all points for discussion in the comments, people. Let me know. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.